All right, Miss Julie, welcome to the podcast. I've interviewed you a few years ago.
Have you? Has it been a while?
I feel like I have. I
I don't
mean, we've had
know.
many conversations.
Well, we've had lots of conversations, but my mental brain sometimes can't keep track of when and what. I mean, most recently, of course, we ran into each other at our kids' summer camp, so that was fun.
I know that's where we see each other. We're
Yeah.
like, "Hey, how are you? Where are you at?"
We also
Um,
did Dovetail, right?
yes. Yeah.
Were you there the really cold year?
Yeah. Yeah, I
That was
was
the really
told
cold
to
year.
change my keynote topic to be
Right.
emotionally uncomfortable so people could stay and
Ah,
and encourage them that the cold was an endurance event.
well, you had to spin it because it was cold. That's right.
Yeah.
I remember that
Yeah.
now. That was something.
I will never I will never forget that year. I had mice jumping on me at night. I felt like I was in a Fear Factor show.
Oh, man. That's all
Yeah.
right. Yeah, it was I just remember us, like, everybody, like, filling up their water bottles with piping hot boiling water and taking it to bed so that we would
Yeah.
stay warm.
These
Yeah,
are
it was
called that's called type 2 fun. It's always a good story to tell at
Yes.
the end. Bonding moments where we can have these times be like, "Remember when we almost froze our asses off in
Yeah,
the
it's like
middle of
it's
the night?"
trauma bonding, really, let's face
Yes.
it.
Yes. Speaking of trauma bonding,
Yes.
let's talk about leading people. I really wanted to have a conversation with you. I see you on, you're always talking about Mabel's labels. Maybe you can give us a little backtrack of like Mabel's labels. But what I'm really interested in, because I talk a lot about buying back time and energy,
Yeah,
and I find it fascinating. You raising 6 children, correct?
correct, yeah.
Doing all the things and just like the messiness of raising a family while raising a company and also like all the things in between and managing all of these people and all the lessons and all of that. So, yeah, just give you the microphone for a second to talk about a little in a nutshell what Mabel's Labels is and when it
You
started, how
bet.
it started.
You bet. Okay, Heather. Well, so Mabel's Labels is actually now 22 years old, which is absolutely ridiculous. Started in the basement with my sister and two of our friends from university. And it was basically because there was a gap in the marketplace. We were losing stuff. We were using permanent ink and marker and trying to write our kids' names on their bottles and their sippy cups and all those things. We're like, there's got to be something better out there. But there wasn't. So we're like, we should do something about this, right? So that was the first thing. And then the second thing was that my eldest child, Mac, was 3 at the time, and he had just received an autism diagnosis. So I wanted to leave the traditional workforce and kind of focus on, advocacy and his program and being able there to support him. And I just thought that the traditional workforce would be a little inflexible to do that, and I wanted to and he already had 2 younger siblings, so it was already like 3 kids. He'd just gone 3. So it was already a gong show around here. So that's when I said to the gals, look, we've had this really good idea, what do you think? And they're like, yay, let's go, let's do it. So we launched Mabel's Labels, from my sister's basement, and we started with our one personalized durable dishwasher microwave safe label. And now, of
Mhm.
course, 22 years later, we're in, a big production facility, a 20,000 square foot facility, which houses our finance and IT and customer service and our production facility and everything. And it's been quite a ride.
And you've had an exit, but you're still the face of the brand.
Correct. Yeah. So we did have an exit, and that was, I mean, that's a whole topic on its own, really. So that was
Mhm.
really interesting and really fun. But I have stayed on with the company since the exit, which is not very common to stick around for as long as I have. Often, when you do an exit, you might be required to stay for a year because you want to make sure there's a smooth transition and you want to make sure you're sharing some of that industry knowledge and passing it along. So sometimes 1 to 3 years is normal. I'm now at probably like 6 or 7, or I don't even know, a long time. So I'm just a regular employee, but I've stayed because I'm still passionate about the brand. I still love connecting with parents and our customers, and we've just got the best team ever.
Beautiful. We use your labels.
Yay.
They don't fall off anything.
That's the
I
secret
remember
sauce.
yeah, a few years ago, we got them when the kids started to go to camp, and now I will have another kid's name on it, and I'm just like, "Okay, someone's name is on it. Take care
Yes.
of this." Like, it's great. So we have them 3 kids, labels on everything. I'm like, "It's got the same last name. You're good to go. Just take it
There
with
you
you."
go. I totally understand that, and, I think it's really fun too, as things have gone along to my 6 kids, I'll have Mac O'Keefe labels, and I'll have Posey, and then I'll have Sass, and it goes through them, and I will sometimes just keep putting the next kid's label on, and it's wild to see, Mac's 25 now, and his label's there with the little spider from when he was a little guy, and it's so cute. Or my kids love to go thrifting, and then they come home, and, like, they've thrifted stuff that's got another kid's Mabel's labels in it.
That is so cool. You're
I
like,
know,
"See? This shit stays on forever."
right? I love when we
Yeah.
find it in the wild. I'll be in an airport in Europe and be like, "Oh, there's some people's labels." It's the best feeling.
That's so cool. I wanted to talk to you for many reasons. You're absolutely hilarious. Like every time I'm around you, you're just like, whatever. Like you are very passionate. You definitely have like your core values and things that you will advocate for and take a stand for. But what I love about you is it's just like, let's just care a little bit less about what people think about us. And I wanted to maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. I think we've swung a little too far, and culturally we're just like the perfectionism of trying to get everything right, whether it's raising kids, whether it's raising a quote unquote company, managing people. I know that's a big one too, because a lot of people, I'm like, you have to outsource, you have to grow, you have to delegate to buy back time and energy. And I focus a lot on the energy piece, not just the time piece. And I'm just curious if you have any words of wisdom when it comes to managing the chaos of
Yeah,
humans when you're
look, yeah,
trying to let
I
go.
mean, it was a lot of humans, and it was at a busy time. We're starting this Mabel's labels, and we're not getting paid, and we're managing, like you say, energy and time. So
Mhm.
I guess some of my lessons is that I learned that I could be very productive in very unusual times and places, right? So we kind of joke about business plans during play dates and that sort of thing. So we really did bring that to our company in a sense. Like we weren't focused on, like, we don't want to drain anyone's energy either, Heather. And I think like
Yeah.
having a company that wants to get the most out of people is by giving them kind of the flexibility to work in an environment that's best and most productive for them and makes them feel psychologically safe and makes them feel like they're contributing and they can get things done and that they're part of a team. So a big part of it has been just we worry about our goals and we don't worry about so much about presenteeism. Like we don't care about bums and chairs from 9 to 5 at the Mabel's Labels office, right? If you're meeting your
Mhm.
goals, we're super happy about that. I think from also a work perspective and a parenting perspective, and I'm shocked about how much they align. Like the things
Yeah.
that you do to make a great team at work are the same things you do at home, to make a place where communication is open, people feel safe, it is psychologically safe. And I always say, if a kid lies to me, what have I done that has
Mm.
made me not a safe person for them to come to? And I think we need to think about that at work too. Why don't they feel I can come with me? I always turn that inward first, and have a bit of self-reflection about that. I think the big sort of energy saver for me, and it is a little bit about not caring what people think, and it is a little bit about not letting things live rent free in your brain, right? Like,
Mm.
I often am saying many times a day, is this the hill I want to die on? Is this, or my mom guilt? I'm feeling guilty about something. Is it worth keeping me up at night? Or is it better just to say to my kid, you know what? I don't think I handled that great. If I had the chance again, I would have done like this. What do you think about that? Do you have any feedback for me? I love that.
Mm.
Okay, I'm going to take that on board. Thank you for that. And then I just do better the next time. So I always joke that I gave up mom guilt 5 kids ago because it's so pointless. And all it does is suck energy out of you. And I have too many good things I have to get done to let it do that.
Mhm. Okay, I love this whole concept of like letting go of guilt. People always ask, how do you get rid of it? How do you get over it? How do you not experience it? I'm like, you're going to feel it. You just can't let
Yeah.
it dictate your action. And I like that you talked about the repair a little bit of you're like, I really messed up and it's about communication. I had a moment this morning, but actually it wasn't with my kids, it was with my husband. It was fascinating to watch how quickly we repaired and moved on. And
Right.
I could see how years ago that would have sucked the life out of me and would have like completely derailed the
Your day.
amount of shit I could
Yep.
get done for the day.
Yep. And
Yeah.
you just can't let that happen. We have to get it's just not worth it. I think, as we age or as we go through these lessons, these are the things that we learn. It's just not worth derailing your day. And I also find then, you're role modeling. So your kids
Mhm.
then aren't ashamed to say, "Hey, I think I screwed up, Ma. I think I need your help with this." Instead of hiding it from you, they're telling you about it so you can help coach them through it. And same with a colleague or somebody at work, somebody on the team. They'll come to you because you're safe to come to, and they know that there's no shame in the game of making mistakes and learning from it and moving on.
Yeah. I want to ask you about advocacy. You talk about psychological safety, advocacy. When, and here's like how I'm positioning this question, because you also talked about how parenting and like managing people in a work environment is very aligned. Obviously, our emotional connection to our children is going to be probably stronger. We're going to have like a primal mama bear this, like ness around it. I want to talk about when we're advocating for somebody versus that fine line of when we're starting to do somebody else's emotional work for them. Does that make
Right.
sense?
It does. It does. And I'm just going to put a pin in that for a second because you were saying something that made me realize that even that mama bear thing can rear its ugly head at work. And I'll give you an example. So
Okay.
I started this company with three other people. And so what happens is, you each have like a department and you divide up. So maybe, I had customer service, one had production, one had marketing, whatever. So in a way, your department ends up being like your kids. You get defensive over them, you want to protect them. And we found that it got to the point where it actually was not very functional. And it was like, okay, I think we need one person running this organization because inevitably what happens is like product development or marketing will be like, okay, we need a new product because we need something to talk about. We need to, and then the production, manager might be like, whoa, 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 my people have worked to the bone. I can't throw another thing at them. They'll kill me, blah, blah, blah. So then are we really caring about the whole company? Are we being mama bear to
Mm-hmm.
our people who report to us? And, I think being that mom and bear with our kids and being that mama bear at work can actually be very dysfunctional and not the best thing. So when it comes
So
to
that's a really good setup for
right,
that question, because
right,
it's like when we're over nurturing or over
yes.
mothering. So yeah,
So
now we'll
I
get
am a
started.
firm believer. Look, I do have six of them, so I'm really aware of how much kids can do independently. And it was very important that my kids were raised fairly independent because I needed to get stuff done. And I often talk about natural consequences, like if they forget their lunch, I'm not going to run it over to the school. They can go hungry for a day because they only ever forget their lunch once, and I got stuff to do. And it's not punishment; it's just what happens. So I think also you need to look at like the ages of your kids and where they're at. And I think the best tool we can do for our teens at work and for our children is to give them the opportunity to advocate for themselves and
Mhm.
teach them self advocacy. So, for example, my kids wanted this dog. They wanted a dog forever. And I was like, we are not getting a dog. I clean up enough poop around this house. Well, the youngest was turning 4 and they were hot on this dog thing. So the six of them got themselves together, put together a PowerPoint presentation, and then they pitched us. And part of it was a graph about, how, we would pay for this dog, who would walk the dog walking schedule. So then they pitched it to me. And so it was like, okay, well, let's consider that. And that gave them the opportunity to practice those skills. And even now, if your kid comes home, even at like 11 or 12, they're like, Mom, I think I should have got a B plus and I got a B minus. And you'd be like, huh. So what are you going to say to your teacher tomorrow about it?
Mhm.
Don't be like, well, I'm going to call the school and I'm going to find out. Coach them on how to have a conversation with their teacher about it. Of course, there's going to be times where you escalate. You have to use good judgment around that. But as they get older, give them opportunities because today's leaders or today's problem solvers are tomorrow's leaders. You don't want to be solving your problems when they're 30 and living in your basement. So let them get the practice now. Obviously, when it comes to things like safety and those sorts of things, you know when to step in. But it is hard too, like you mentioned about this perfectionism. And, we need to make sure that we're not treating our kids like projects, that things are coming from them and that they are learning to self advocate so that when we're not there, we know that they can do well. Healthy birds leave the nest.
Healthy birds leave the nest. Yeah. And if you feel, in my experience, if you have grief or sadness or like, oh, like you're excited for them, but you're going to have feelings about that too. It's like we can't keep them around just to keep ourselves comfortable.
Yes, and that is a really hard thing, Heather, I think for parents. Again, a parallel with selling the business, right? Like I see often because I have 5 kids at university right now. My last one's in high school. So they do go off and it's fine. Like it's hard, whatever. But
Mhm.
now they come home at Christmas and I'll be like, is it January yet? Get that
Yeah.
out of my house.
Yeah.
But what I think from an energy perspective, we spend so much energy on these kids. We spend so much energy building our businesses. What happens then when they're gone? What
Mm.
happens when we exit our business? What happens when our kids move out? And we don't know what to do with ourselves, or we don't know how we define ourselves, or we have that identity crisis. So, what are we doing sort of before all that happens to make sure that, we're protecting our energy, we're adding things to it so that when it goes, we don't feel so like not
Empty.
knowing who we are, right? Because that also is very like when you are really struggling with like who am I and that sort of crisis and not knowing your place in the world, that is so like that's an energy suck, right, Heather? Like
Yeah. It's like paying attention where you get your value. And you can see that very quickly if you remove a child or remove your work and be like, oh, what am I supposed to do? I remember going through that phase and I can now confidently say I get a lot of value from my work. But if I'm not working, I'm okay. I can
right.
find myself, I can fulfill myself without it.
Yeah, it,
Yeah.
it can be tough. And you do see this with a lot of entrepreneurs who exit. They
Yeah.
really, really struggle finding
That
that next
identity
thing.
crisis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you work your ass off
Right?
and you're so committed and focused to something. It's fascinating this whole like, I started my own thing because I wanted flexibility, but you're working way more
I know,
than
I'm
you
like
would with.
everybody's like, "Oh, I won't have a boss." And I'm like, "Yeah, you will. Your customers, your suppliers, your team. You got more bosses than you ever had when you were in the traditional workforce."
Right, but you're like, I have control if I wanna go for a walk midday or if I have to put an appointment. It's fascinating to have control over
Yeah,
time versus no control over time. I was gonna ask you, so your oldest is like mid-20s, correct?
right.
Okay. What have you noticed culturally
Mhm.
in parenting since having your first child?
Oh, yeah. There's a lot going on. I mean, he's 25 now. I think really the big thing, again, parallel to business, like when we started Mabel's Labels, there was no social media, right? Like there were no podcasts, there was none of this. So everything was like word of mouth, moms talking about our products, like at the daycare drop off or, at the camp signups.
Yeah.
And the same with parenting. Like there were books, but there were no, I mean, I feel like now people have so much access to information as parents that they can just like I think it can be overwhelming, right? And then you can just feel like that paralysis and that I'm doing everything wrong, but then you're getting different opinions about it. And I really just think that comparison is the thief of joy. Your kids are going to be fine. I promise you, they're fine. And I think you just really need to curate your social media feed. If somebody you're following makes you feel bad, notice that. Say, what's that doing to my energy? What's that taking away from me? You can unfollow and block so fast. And I think, for like the kind of work that you do, Heather, I think it's self care to just be like, okay, I might need a little social media diet, or I need to not follow this parenting influencer anymore, or whatever you need to do, you curate who you let like into your life, both online and offline.
I've noticed a huge, like my oldest is 20, almost 21. I remember I was just getting into meditation and mindfulness, and we've swung it so far to the other side that it's like there's like 80 different types of ways to do something now. But people, I feel, have become more disconnected from themselves, where before it was like you had, like you said, less external information, or you had to like research it and actually took time. So you
Mhm.
use like critical thinking and problem solving, where now it's like five simple ways to, oh, don't like that. Okay,
Right.
three simple ways to, oh, don't like that. And then
It's quick.
we're so disconnected from self. And
Yeah.
then I'm always telling people, what feels good to you? And then the response is usually, well, this is what so and so said. And I'm like, what feels good to you? Like trusting your intuition when it comes to your kids.
I love that because you're right. So often I'm like, we have these like mama guts for a reason. They've been there for centuries, long before somebody on TikTok could tell me how I should be doing this. Like, we
Yeah.
figured this stuff out. And I do think, and I don't know if it's a case of like, because, we only have like one or two kids mostly. Like, I think we invest so much. Like, honestly, maybe it's easier with six. I'm like, somebody will be like, whatever. And somebody's going to be whatever, like, whatever. Like, I don't live through them. I don't like, I just want them to I literally just want them to be happy, literally,
Yeah.
and make a living and like just have, I don't care about all the things. Like, they don't have to go to all the extra enrichment things and whatever. Right. Like,
Mhm.
they're not projects. They're just kids. And I think, whether parents are just thinking, I'm doing something wrong if they're not doing rep hockey and they're not doing competitive dance and they're not and they're not and they're not. And it just actually goes against everything we know. An 80-year Harvard study that tells us the very best thing for kids that's going to lead to their successful lives and happier, more fulfilled lives, make them better spouses, make better roommates in college, better at keeping their roof. Like, it's all of it is doing chores, having chores.
Mm,
But nobody has chores now because they're too busy at competitive dance, right? And
yeah.
so, we're taking away the basic things. And I felt like even during COVID, this was a real lesson to me because we all stayed home. I'm like, oh my gosh, these kids, they can just have paper routes. They can play hockey on the court. They're fine. So I
Yep.
think, there is all this pressure for parents to do all these things for their kids. It's like competitive parenting. And if you're not doing it, then somehow you don't love your child the same. And we just got to reject that.
Yeah. I just saw, of course, where I get my news and information, Instagram.
Yeah.
I just saw a reel of a woman. Of course, I don't pay attention. Like just take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But she was running a race, like right at the finish line of a race, and her husband pushed her kids in front of her, and
Good.
she like pushed him out of the way to
Yeah.
finish the race.
Good.
And did you see this video?
Yeah. It's infuriating.
Yeah, and the comments and everything, and I was just, like, cheering. Of course, everyone's like, "Well, you don't know the context and da da da," and I'm like, just let her fucking
Finish.
win. Let her
Exactly.
finish
Let her have a
what she wanted
goal.
to do."
Like,
And,
no
of course, it's
father,
like she
like,
rejected her children.
yeah. How about
Yeah,
father keep those kids off the racetrack so that their mother
yeah,
they can see her? Like, that's role modeling. Them seeing her cross that finish line, that's good for them to see. Just like,
yeah.
it's good for our kids to see us build things and be passionate about our work.
Any words of wisdom for the women that are listening to this that are all about kind of, I know I attract a lot of people who are opting out of the toxic culture of motherhood and womanhood. And yeah, what words of wisdom would you have for her if she's listening to this and feels like
Yeah.
there's so much external pressure?
I get it, and I do think you have to curate your list to what suits you and makes you feel good. And you can, like, I even followed somebody because they complained about motherhood too much, and I was like,
Yeah.
God, sometimes I've been like, am I the only one who actually likes being a mom? Like, I know it's kind of the bit and the, I'm so tired, or I'm so like, I'm the default parent. I'm like, I love being the default parent. I like being the bossy one who knows everything that's going on in this family. So I'm okay with, but I'm just like, so that didn't suit me. So I'm like, I'm going to unfollow people who complain about their kids because I don't like that. Right. So I think you can do that. But I think really at the end of the day, the only thing, and this has been like my, preserve energy hack or secret
Mhm.
sauce, is that my perception, and that's the only thing I've got. That's the only thing I can control. So if something can be taken negatively or positively, I always go to positive. If I don't let things live rent free in my brain. I consider the source like what do I really care what that person thinks of me? Like, that's really not my business. And I don't care. I care about like what my mom thinks or my sister, like people like that, my children. But, random guy on the internet is not getting any, not sucking any of my energy. And we see this particularly with women who are online or entrepreneurs. You can have 1,000 people saying, I love what you're doing. Somebody's like, I think you're a big phony. And what do? You focus on that one idiot, and you
Yeah.
really need to practice not. And because you said, how do you, not feel mom guilt? And like, how do you not pay? It takes practice. You have to be like, okay, you know what? I'm going to talk to somebody about this. I'm going to get help with this. I'm going to let this go. Or the guilt thing is be like, okay, I feel it sneaking in. So what do I need to do? It's probably an indication that I have to make a little change. I'm feeling guilty that this kid has not spent enough time with me. Great. Go to your calendar and be like, kiddo, I'm going to take you for lunch tomorrow. I'm going to skip out of the office and we're going to go, whatever. So if you feel that mom guilt coming in, or guilt, work guilt, maybe you feel like you're not spending enough time at work, whatever it is, use that as a little trigger to be like, okay, I'm the author of this book. I'll make a change.
I love that. I'm the author of this book. Julie, where can people find more of you and all the things that you're up to?
Okay, so obviously you want to go to mabelslabels.com. But if you want to find out more about me, you can find it all at mabelslabels.com/Julie Cole. And of course, I'm in all the places like LinkedIn and Instagram and stuff. But on that mabelslabels.com/Julie Cole, that's where you can like order my book. You can see where I've spoken. Maybe some media stuff's up there. I should probably have a look. But
Right.
yeah, all the stuff's there.
And Mabel's labels can be ordered and shipped internationally
Oh yeah,
everywhere.
absolutely everywhere.
And they stay on
Oh yeah,
forever
baby.
and ever and
Yay.
ever.
And you've got the labels
Yay.
to prove it for your 20-year-old.
100%. Actually think I have some in my own shoes because
They
I
outgrew them and
probably
you took them?
I probably put a label in there for some reason. I was doing something, but sometimes I'm like, why the hell do I have a label on this? And I'm like, I don't know. I was at an
You know
event.
what?
I
I
didn't
see
want
them
to.
at the yoga studio because all the moms have the same UGG shoes. So they
Yep,
put them on there or in their Birkenstocks or whatever.
that's true.
Yeah, moms need them too.
Yeah. I don't know. They're fun. They're good. I love it.
Yay.
Thanks, Julie.
Thanks, Heather.